Khan, Shalom Israel, Shalom, Brother Benaiah, WFI UK. Just wanted to do a quick little breakdown because I've got a meeting with a Christian church today. All praise to the Most High. Lord willing, I could get some content and put it out to edify the sheep, man. Like Christ said, feed my sheep, right? So first and foremost, I want to give all honor, all glory to the Most High God, whose name is Yahweh, and I do so in His only begotten Son's name, Yahushai, right? We are the Hebrew Israelites, the sons of Jacob, right? The sons of Israel. And we believe we are the Israelites due to the prophecies that you see in the book of Deuteronomy, right? I want to go into a quick little breakdown, which is going to be around Acts 10, right? Peter's vision, right? But before I do so, I want to establish something real quick, right? Because we've not been taught how to understand the Bible. That's a big thing. We've not actually been told how we actually understand the scriptures, right? So this is Psalms chapter 119 and verse 104. It says, "Through thy precepts I get understanding, therefore I hate every false way." So it's through the precepts that we get the understanding. So we don't just pick out verses like John 3:16 and then try to make sense of it by ourselves. We use the precepts to explain itself. That's how the Bible works. So you see something that says, John 3:16, for example, "For God so loved the world." Well, there's other verses that speak about who that world is. When you look into it, you come to find it's Israel. Because loved, being past tense, means He loved them in the past. He loved the people in the past. What people did God ever love in the past? It's Israel. He never loved everybody on earth, right? So it's through the precepts that we get the understanding. Therefore, we hate every false way. Everything else that's not according to the precept is false, right? That's what we believe in. Now let's go to Acts, which is what I want to get into. It's the book of Acts, right? Chapter 10. And I'm gonna jump around just I'm gonna lay down the Christian understanding, and I'm gonna break it down into the foundation to show you how it's false, right? So this is Acts chapter 10, and I'm gonna read verse 15. So I'm gonna start verse 13. It says, "And there came a voice to him, 'Rise, Peter, kill and eat.' But Peter said, 'Not so, Lord, for I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean.' And the voice spake unto him again the second time, 'What God hath cleansed, that call not thou common.' This was done thrice, and the vessel was received up again into heaven." So Christianity, our so-called brothers in Christianity, right? They go to this verse to say, whatever God has cleansed, you can't call that common. So that means we can eat everything. Well, let's see if that's true. All right, let's start earlier. This is Acts chapter 10, and I'm going to start at verse 11. Let me start at verse... I'm going to start at verse 7. It says, "And when the angel which spake unto Cornelius was departed to call 2 of his household servants, and a devout soldier of them that waited on him continually, and when he had declared all things unto them, he sent them to Joppa. On the morrow, as they went on their journey, and drew nigh unto the city, Peter went up upon the housetop to pray about the 6th hour, and he became very hungry, and would have eaten, but while they made ready, he fell into a trance." Right? He fell into a trance. So it's a vision. There's things that's going to be shown to him. It's similitudes. The Most High speaking similitudes, right? He fell into a trance, right? Let me quickly read this. Let's go to the book of Hosea. Hosea chapter 12 and verse 10. It says, I'm going to start at verse 9. It says, and I that am the Lord, thy God, from the land of Egypt, will yet make thee to dwell in tabernacles, as in the days of the solemn feast." See, that's the spirit, because it's the Feast of Tabernacles right now. All praises to my brothers who already started the feast. Lord willing, I'll be joining them real soon, right? But that's the spirit, man. It's going into tabernacles. Verse 10. "I have also spoken by the prophets, and I have multiplied visions and used similitudes by the ministry of the prophets. So the Messiah uses similitudes, right? He says one thing, it's similar to something else, and that's what he means, right? It's not, there's always a double, sometimes triple, sometimes quadruple understanding to the scriptures. So just because you read one thing, it doesn't always just mean that. There's a deeper meaning behind it, right? So going back to Acts 10 and verse 11 now, it says, and so heaven opened, and a certain vessel descended unto him, as it had been a great sheet knit at the four corners and let down to the earth. So Peter saw heaven opened, and a certain vessel descending unto him, right? He saw heaven open, but what does that mean? What does that actually mean? Again, through thy precepts, we get the understanding. Therefore, we hate every false way. This is Lamentation chapter 2 and verse 1. It says, how have the Lord covered the daughter of Zion with a cloud in his anger, and cast down from heaven unto the earth the beauty of Israel, and remembered not his footstool in the day of his anger. So we see a precept here in Lamentation, how the Messiah has cast down Israel from heaven. We read in Acts 10 and verse 11 again. And Peter saw a heaven opened, and a certain vessel descending unto him. Israel being cast down. Israel descended, right? And it says, as it had been in a great sheet knit at the four corners and let down to the earth. It had been at a great sheet knit at the four corners and let down to the earth. Why is it written like that? Let's see. Let's see. Like we said, through thy precepts, we get the understanding. Therefore, we hate every false way, right? So this is the book of Hosea, chapter 8 and verse 8. It says, Israel is swallowed up. Now shall there be among the Gentiles as a vessel wherein is no pleasure. So Israel is also a vessel that there's no pleasure in. Like we just read in verse 11, Acts 10 and 11, it says, a certain vessel descending unto him. So far, I just used two precepts, Lamentation and Hosea. And Acts 10 and 11 is going into Israel. Let's keep going. Verse 12, Acts 10 and 12. Wherein were all manner of four-footed beasts of the earth, and wild beasts, and creeping things, and fowls of the air. Verse 12 said, the vessels that was descending, it was four-footed beasts of the earth, wild beasts, and creeping things. Right? What does that mean? Wild beasts and creeping things. What does that actually mean? Right? Let's get the precepts. Because through thy precepts, we get the understanding. Therefore, we hate every false way. Right? Let's get the precept. This is, I want Habakkuk. I always, because this Bible's small, so I struggle to find it sometimes. Right, this is Habakkuk. Bear with me. There you go. This is the book of Habakkuk. Excuse me. This is Habakkuk chapter 1 and verse 14. It says, and makest men as the fishes of the sea, as the creeping things that have no ruler over them. So the Messiah makes men as the creeping things that have no ruler over them. Right? And we just read in Acts 10 and 12, wherein were all manner of four-footed beasts of the earth, and wild beasts, and creeping things, and fowls of the air. And we see that the Messiah makes men as creeping things as well. Right? Let's get another one. Let's get another one. Let's get Ecclesiastes. Excuse me. Ecclesiastes chapter 3 and verse 18. So like it, verse 15. Ecclesiastes 3 and 15. That which I've... No, that's not what I want. Ecclesiastes 3 and 18. It says, I said in mine heart concerning the estate of the sons of men, that God might manifest them, and that they might see that they themselves are beasts. So we as men, when we're not keeping these commandments, we're beasts. Right? through that precepts we get understanding. Therefore, we hate every false way. We let the Bible explain itself, right? We don't. Let me read it. Let me bring this out real quick. Just a quick precept on that, right? Just a quick precept on that. This is the book of Proverbs. Proverbs chapter 3 and verse number 5. It says, "Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding." So we're not going to lean onto our own understanding. We're going to let the scripture explain itself. And whatever it says, whatever the chips fall, that's what we believe. That's how you establish the doctrine. You let the Bible dictate what the doctrine is. You don't impose what you think it means and then create a doctrine from it. That's how you get Christianity. That's how you get Seventh-day Adventists, Jehovah's Witness, Mormonism, baptism, evangelical. That's how you get all these religions, because they took verses and then made doctrines from it. Whereas us, the real children of the Most High, we let the Bible dictate the doctrine. We let the precepts dictate the doctrine and what we believe in. All right? So back to Acts chapter 10 and verse 12 again. "Wherein were all manner of four-footed beasts of the earth, and wild beasts, and creeping things, and fowls of the air." Right? We just read in Ecclesiastes, the Most High makes man as beasts. We read in Habakkuk, the Most High made man as creeping things. Right? Let's read another one. Let's read Leviticus, right? I think this is. Let's go to Leviticus real quick. Leviticus 11. This is Leviticus 11 and verse number 46. It says, "This is the law of the beasts, and of the fowl, and of every living creature that moveth in the waters, and of every creature that creepeth upon the earth, to make a difference between the unclean and the clean, and the beast, and between the beast that may be eaten and the beast that may not be eaten." So the Mosai has already established there's beasts that you can't eat and there's beasts that you can't eat. That's plain. And Peter understood this, right? But remember, the Mosai speaks in similitudes. And this is a vision, right? And we use the precepts to make sense of that vision. So far, it's only going into Israel. Israel is that vessel descending down, because Israel being cast out, right? Let's keep going. Right, this is the book of Acts chapter 10 now, and we'll continue reading in verse number 13. It says, "And there came a voice to him, Rise, Peter, kill and eat. But Peter said, Not so, Lord, for I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean. And the voice spake again unto him the second time, What God hath cleansed, call not thou common." This is the verse, the crippling verse, because it says what God hath cleansed. So what has God cleansed? Let's find this out. What people or what thing has God cleansed? Because if God has cleansed something, we would see that in the law. He would have established that in the law. But the law tells us there's things that you can't eat and things that you can't eat. So that means not everything is clean. But when it says what God has cleansed, call not thou common, so that means God said he's going to clean something, or he has cleansed something, right? Let's find out what he's cleansed, right? This is Ezekiel chapter 37 and verse... Ezekiel 37 and verse number 23. I'm going to start at 16 for context. It says, "Moreover, thou son of man," Ezekiel 37 and 16. "Moreover, thou son of man, take thee one stick and write upon it for Judah and for the children of Israel, his companions. Then take another stick and write upon it for Joseph, the stick of Ephraim, and for all the house of Israel, his companions, and join them one to another into one stick, and there shall become one in thine hand. And when the children of thy people shall speak unto thee, saying, Wilt thou not show us what thou meanest by these? Say unto them, Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, Behold, I will take the stick of Joseph, which is in the hand of Ephraim, and the tribes of Israel his fellows, and will put them with him, even with the stick of Judah, and make them one stick, and there shall be one in mine hand. This is going into Israel and Judah after the split, right? Verse 23. Neither shall they defile themselves any more with their idols, nor with their detestable things, nor with any of their transgressions, but I will save them out of their dwelling places, wherein they have sinned, and will cleanse them. So shall they be my people, and I will be their God. So that cleansing is talking about Israel getting cleansed. Because if you know anything about their history, Israel went into slavery, right? The northern tribes went ahead first. The Jews kept the commandments for the longest, but they were still wicked, and they got put in slavery as well. So the Messiah had to clean us. In order for us to be clean, he had to send a sacrifice, because the old covenant is sacrifice. It's a sacrificial law, right? The old covenant was established by sacrifice. So whenever we sin, we have to give an atonement for that. Christ was our ultimate atonement to bring us back together. It had nothing to do with other nations. But because we went into slavery so many times, to the point where we disobeyed the Most High so many times, he said, this time, I'm going to put you in slavery where you're not going to remember who you are anymore. You're going to call yourself after the other nations that you're enslaved by. Greeks, Romans, Gentiles, right? British, American, Ghanaian, right? Nigerian. These are terms that was man-made, and the colonizers gave us those terms. That's not our name. We are the children of Israel, according to the Bible, right? Let's get another one, actually. Joel. Right, this is Joel chapter 3, and I'm going to start at verse number 6. I'm going to read verse 6 and then jump down. It says, the children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians, that ye might remove them far from their border. So this is why Tyre and Zidon have done. They've sold us, right? The real Hamitic, the real Africans sold the Israelites. A dark nation of people sold another dark nation of people to the Grecians, the Greeks, right? I'm going to jump down to verse number 20. It says, but Judah shall dwell forever, and Jerusalem from generation to generation, for I will cleanse their blood that I have not cleansed, for Yahweh, for the Lord dwelleth in Zion. So the Messiah is talking about cleansing who? Cleaning Israel. That's who's getting the cleaning, because they're the ones that need to come back unto him. They're his chosen people. They've been cast away for their sins. Now it's high time for us to repent and come back unto the Lord and keep his commandments sincerely, right? Going back to Acts 10 and 15, and the voice spake unto him again the second time, what God hath cleansed, that call not thou common. We know that Israel is the one that's been cleansed, right? This was done thrice, and the vessel was received up again into heaven. So 3 times the angel said this to Peter. And Peter said, not so, Lord. I've never eaten anything that's common and unclean. Not so, Lord. I've never eaten anything that's common and unclean. If Peter doubted, why do our Christian brothers today believe you can? It never said Peter ate it, right? But when you keep reading, you see what that's talking about, right? I'm going to jump down. This is Acts 10 and 28. It says, and he said unto them, ye know how that it is an unlawful thing for a man that is a Jew to keep company or come unto it one of another nation. But God have showed me that I should not call any man common or unclean. So this is not talking about food, it's talking about actual men, right? Because these men, Cornelius and his brethren, they are Israelites from the northern tribes, right? When you get into the history, the Messiah told us we can't deal with them no more. The Jews were forbidden to deal with the northern tribes because the northern tribes were heavy in idolatry, right? They were heavily worshipping Satan. So the Messiah told us not to deal with them no more, right? The Messiah told us not to deal with them no more. I want to get a quick precept on that. So this is Hosea. This is Hosea. Where is that again? There we go. This is Hosea chapter 4 and verse 17. It says, Ephraim is joined unto idols. Let him alone. Who is Ephraim? All right, let's go to Isaiah. Right, this is Isaiah chapter around 7. This is Isaiah chapter 7 and verse number 9. It says, and the head of Ephraim is Samaria, and the head of, let me start at 8. Let me start 7. It says, Isaiah 7 and 7. Thus saith the Lord God, it shall not stand, neither shall it come to pass. For the head of Syria is Damascus, and the head of Damascus is Rezin. And within 65 years shall Ephraim be broken, that it be not a people. Ephraim, which is the head tribe of the northern kingdom, just like Judah is the head tribe of the southern kingdom, which encompasses Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. And Ephraim is Ephraim, Manasseh, Gad, Zebulun, and all the way on down. Right? Ephraim is the head tribe. So when it says Ephraim be broken, it's talking about the northern tribe. They're going to be broken, that there'll be not a people unto the Most High anymore. But they're still his chosen people. But because of their idolatry, they're being cast away. Verse 9, Isaiah 7 and 9. And the head of Ephraim is Samaria, and the head of Samaria is Remaliah, Remaliah's son. If you will not believe, surely ye shall not be established. Showing you what? Ephraim is the leader of the northern tribe. Right? So when in Hosea 4 and 17, Ephraim is joined to idols, let him alone, is showing us that Ephraim was in idolatry heavily. So the Most High told us we can't deal with them no more. But in the last days, that's why I read Ezekiel. I'm gonna read this final verse, and then we're gonna call it a day. So this is back to Ezekiel. This is Ezekiel chapter 37 and verse 16. Moreover, thou son of man, take thee one stick and write upon it for Judah and for the children of Israel, his companions, and take another stick and write upon it for Joseph, the stick of Ephraim, and for all the house of Israel, his companions. Judah and Ephraim, they are still the same, the sons of Jacob. They're all Israelites, but there's been a split. So the whole point of this is for the two sticks to be put back together to become one again. When the sticks are back together, that's when we rule the kingdom. That's when we rule the earth forever, right? I'm going to get this last one. I know I said last one, but this shall be the last one, Lord willing. Right, this is the book of Daniel. Daniel chapter, let's get a quick prophecy. So like here. This is the book of Daniel chapter 2 and verse number 44. I'm going to start with verse 44. It says, and in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. That's the kingdom of Christ, right? Christ ruling with the Israelites, with his brothers, right? Christ ruling with the Israelites in the kingdom of heaven, which is going to be established on earth. All praises to the Most High. Lord willing, brothers and sisters, get some edification from this. It's Brother Benaiah from WFI UK. Hey, happy Feast of Tabernacles. I can't wait to get out there. Kwame Ashala. Shalom.